Hello, I'm Jessica Halsey again, and the project of building Republican and Democratic platforms and comparing them was aimed at kids. And the second part of this, I'm going to verbally go through all of the 14 issues, talking about what the Republicans believe and what the Democrats believe. This is before the conventions of 2020. So all of the Republican platform is formed by using what Trump's first term and what he has proposed to do in his second term. The Democratic platform is formed by what the candidates debated early on when there were oodles of candidates debating, and what Joe Biden has added to that since then. While the original activity was aimed at just kids, many adults have expressed, couldn't we just have all of the comparisons by themselves? So here goes. Economy. The Republicans want reduced regulations, and that's an important word, regulations. That allows the privately owned businesses to compete and drive prices down. With this plan in mind, Trump had the highest stock market ever, the highest average income, and created 7 million jobs. This netted the lowest unemployment in U.S. history for blacks, Hispanics, Asians, women, youth. This was the highest participation at any time in the U.S. of work. This showed that capitalism was the way. The Democrats, on the other hand, want to regulate, not deregulate, regulate businesses. They even want to nationalize. That means to have government-owned businesses. They want to eradicate instead of fostering competition. They want to create a guaranteed income for every person, whether they're a citizen or an illegal alien. This removes all incentives for people to work, and it is exceedingly costly. Guaranteed income is a Marxist concept, and it has never, ever worked where it has been implemented. Say Cuba, Russia, Venezuela, China, North Korea, Laos, and Vietnam. Need I say more? Taxes, the next one. Republicans want lower taxes, giving people the right to choose how to spend their own money. Trump implemented the largest tax cut in history, which stimulated the greatest economy in history. He reduced corporate taxes, those are taxes on businesses, which caused trillions of dollars to return to the U.S. How? Well, the high taxes that were imposed on U.S. companies, they would take their earnings and their profit and put it in foreign banks. And then when Trump removed those taxes, or lowered them, the money came flowing back from the foreign banks to the United States. Smart business practices. The Democrats, on the other hand, want to raise taxes, of course, to pay for all of the free government programs. The wealth tax that the Democrats want to impose, they say is taxing the rich, but have no fear, it will get to the middle class as well. They want to, and this is scary, redistribute money from the rich to the poor, from those who work to those who don't. This is a Marxist, communist concept, again, forcing businesses out of the United States to places where they could make profit, and that in turn reduces American jobs. Next, healthcare. The Republicans want choice of affordable care and the right to choose their own doctor, their own hospital, their own specialist, even if that specialist is in another state. Under Trump, drug prices have dropped 12% per year. The FDA approved more generic drugs than ever before, and healthcare providers are forced to post their cost for their services. Trump says he wants no one blindsided by a medical bill. For COVID, Trump closed travel to China, He sent hospital ships to New York and to California. He made thousands of ventilators. He created warp speed vaccination development. Then he allowed states to open up at their own pace. Democrats, on the other hand, want one government plan with no private insurance alternatives. There's no choice of doctor, no choice of hospital, no choice of specialist. Healthcare for all, though, it includes illegal aliens, which will cost the American taxpayers $23 billion every year. Now, the scary part is Obamacare is still in force, and Obamacare has what are called death panels. Those are groups of people who decide if grandma deserves surgery, radiation, chemotherapy, or not. They also have high taxes to pay for all of the free government programs with no personal choice. Trade. Republicans want to protect American farmers, workers, medical people, manufacturers, businesses, with fair trade agreements with other nations, forcing them to be on a level playing field with Americans. Trump used two things to leverage that fair level playing field. He used sanctions, which were penalties to nations who break trade agreements, and tariffs. It's a tax charged to another nation on certain imported goods. Those two things, sanctions and tariffs. He again used sanctions and tariffs to protect intellectual property from international theft, especially China. Democrats, on the other hand, in past Democratic trade agreements, they have appeased foreign nations, not enforcing sanctions or tariffs. They have ignored how American workers have been abused until Trump stood up for the American workers and farmers and got better trade agreements for their benefit. The next one is religion. Religion, the Republicans want the protection of the First Amendment and religious liberty. They want protection for pastors from oversight, from discrimination or regulation, allowing them to practice not only their belief, but to teach their congregation according to their belief. They want to give chaplains in the military the freedom to share with the military personnel. They don't have that now. Trump issued an executive order prohibiting U.S. government from discriminating in any form or fashion against Christians. He issued a second executive order allowing the U.S. government to withhold federal funds from any college that did not check anti-Semitic verbiage or behavior. On the Democratic side, the Democratic Party dropped all references to a higher power or God from their website and from documents in 2019. They oppose any reference to Christianity, Jesus, or Christ in public places. They want to make the LGBT a protected right. No law, no person, or business can oppose LGBT rights. If a Christian refuses to bake a wedding cake for a gay wedding, that would be not only unlawful, it would be illegal, and he would be hammered for that, even though such participation would violate his religious freedom. The Democrats oppose chaplains sharing their faith with military personnel. I don't know what their job is supposed to be. Next, we have law and order. The Republicans want to weed out and punish bad cops. They want to enforce laws that are on the books. They want fair but firm policing and sentencing. We need to, the Republicans believe, support the police with more funding to return order to cities like New York, Chicago, Portland, Seattle, and Atlanta because they are in chaos. Since George Floyd's horrible death, 18 police have been murdered. Even innocent children and funeral goers have been murdered. One officer is paralyzed from the neck down, and 800 have been injured by, quote, protesters that burn, rob, destroy livelihood, harass, and kill citizens in violent riots. The Republicans support police, law and order, but they want to insist on fair treatment for all and a safe America for all. The Democrats, on the other hand, want to defund the police, cut their money and salaries for equipment. They want to send a social worker to intervene in mental problems and domestic abuse problems. But unfortunately, social workers are not available at night because they don't work 24/7 like police. So Democrats are not sure how that's going to flesh out. They have supported CHOPS, which was its own nation. It was a police-free zone. The result of CHOPS was 4 shootings, 2 deaths, several sexual assaults in a matter of weeks. They also want to abolish bail, which becomes a revolving door for criminals. The next one issue is military. The Republicans. Trump has rebuilt a strong, well-equipped military capable of quick responses to terrorists and threats from nations. He inherited the military in shambles from Obama and Biden. With the killing of al-Baghdadi and Soleimani, ISIS is now on the run. Trump has created a U.S. Space Force. This is a 6th branch of the U.S. military to protect the U.S. and allied interest in space. Trump has reorganized the VA from shambles. There's no more waiting because you can't see a doctor, because you go to a private doctor and you charge the VA. He has fired incompetent staff members. He has created a White House hotline that is staffed by veterans, helping vets to get help. Trump also used these sanctions that we've talked about against Iran and North Korea to prevent them from further developing their atomic bombs. The Democrats, on the other side, always minimally fund any military, but as recently as July of 2020, the Dems now want to defund the military, as proposed by Bernie Sanders' Senate bill. The bill was voted down this July, but there were 25 senators out of 100 that voted for it. We're wondering if the Dems propose to send social workers to dialogue with terrorists instead of Navy SEALs, just like they're proposing to send social workers to domestic violence when they defund the police. In 2016, Obama gave $1.7 billion in cash dropped by an airplane on the tarmac of Iran. This was to buy Iran's non-aggression toward the United States, which Iran promptly used this money to continue their nuclear bomb development. Contrast the Democrats' appeasement to Trump's sanctions. What is the net results? The next one is education. Republicans support parents' choice for school, whether homeschool, charter school, private, or public school. They want to give vouchers to parents, which 75% of parents favor, to send children to better schools, creating competition and accountability between the schools. Trump increased education choice funding by $42 million, making money available for parents' choice. The second part of education is Republicans want to teach legitimate history versus revisionist history. We want the schools open in the fall of 2020 physically. The Democrats oppose school choice. They oppose charter, homeschool, and vouchers. They favor a new curriculum with LGBT focus and a new 1619 project teaching kids that all American progress is illegitimate because it was built on the backs of slaves who first arrived in 1619. The 1619 project is revisionist history. The Democrats oppose school opening in the fall 2020, except virtually, which creates a huge problem for single moms. The next issue is unborn. The Republicans believe that unborn babies are living humans with unique DNA. Republicans oppose abortion, the killing of innocent babies by tearing babies' bodies apart with suction and then suctioning out those parts from the womb of the mother. They oppose tax money funding Planned Parenthood because Planned Parenthood kills babies and also sells their harvested bodies. Over 60 million living babies have been suctioned to death since 1973. The Democrats, on the other hand, support women's right to kill, abort, the baby they are carrying up to the delivery date and possibly even after birth, which is infanticide. Women's right over her body and convenience are more important to Democrats than a baby's right to live. The Democrats want taxpayers to fund all abortion deaths of unborn babies. The Second Amendment. Republicans view the right of people to keep and bear arms as very necessary. They oppose any infringement on gun ownership. They want homeowners to be allowed to defend their family and personal property, unlike in the recent riots in St. Louis, Missouri. Republicans believe criminals will always get guns, and restrictions to gun ownership only punishes law-abiding gun owners. Republicans believe school shootings and mass shootings are mental health issues, not gun issues. Democrats, on the other hand, want to ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. Democrats also want red flag laws to ban mental patients from gun ownership. They want to eliminate the purchase of firearms at gun shows and online, and have strict background checks on all gun purchases. Law-abiding gun owners have stopped several mass shootings, like one we know here in Texas happened in White Settlement at a Church of Christ. Had not those people attending church been armed, more churchgoers would have been killed. The next issue is social justice. The Republicans have already moved in that direction. Trump and North Carolina Senator Tim Scott have created opportunity zones. These are where the government infuses money into blighted areas to start businesses and create jobs for minorities. Trump's First Step Act minimized prison terms for first-time drug offenders and made their return to society much easier. Trump has partnered with business in ready-to-work law to help felons secure jobs upon release. Trump gave 14% more than any other president to black colleges permanently, eliminating them having to come ask every year. Democrats, on the other hand, support Black Lives Matter, which is a pro-Marxist, pro-LGBT, and anti-nuclear family movement. The Dems believe it's okay for protesters led by Antifa, which is a Marxist activist group using physical violence and property damage to create anarchy, to riot, to kill, to burn, to steal, to destroy, to tear down historical statues because they are angry. Dems want systemic racists, anyone white, weeded out and retrained in organizations and businesses. Thus, they are re-segregating when we have fought so hard against segregation. The Dems want police defunded, and they demand slavery reparations. This does not sound anything like the dream of Martin Luther King. Borders. Republicans support legal immigration. They also support building a wall between Mexico and the United States, which is over 1,933 miles. Why? To prevent illegal aliens from taking jobs from Americans, to prevent gang members, felons, human traffickers, opioid carriers, and terrorists from crossing. Trump has built 257 miles of border to date and will build 400 miles by the end of 2020. Republicans want the 564 sanctuary cities that protect illegals from deportation eliminated. Democrats refuse to give any money to Trump for a border wall. They want open borders. They want to eliminate ICE, which is the Immigration and Customs Enforcement. They want protection for sanctuary cities. To put that in perspective, they are in favor of giving to the 14.3 million illegals that are now in America $132 billion annually of your tax money. The next issue is energy. Republicans have taken care of that. Trump has already made the U.S. energy independent by removing regulations to allow oil drilling on 19 million acres of ANWR, which is the Arctic National Wildlife and Refuge. This has enough oil and gas for 53 or 79 years, depending on how we're using it. The U.S. has enough coal for 150 years. Being energy independent means the U.S. no longer worries about piracy of tankers in the Persian Gulf because the U.S. does not buy oil from the Persian Gulf. Democrats, on the other hand, want to eliminate oil and coal and nuclear power in all buildings, businesses, plants, homes, cars, planes, trucks, and ships. They want to make you do it. All homes use only solar. When you depend on solar and wind energy, it has not to date been very reliable. This plan would eliminate being able to travel by car, plane, ship, as well as the movement of goods across America. Our food, for instance, would not be able to be moved. Even electric cars must be recharged by electricity, which comes from coal or oil or nuclear power. The last issue is environment. The Republicans continue to support clean air and water regulations. The U.S. has dropped 90% in air pollution over the last 30 years. Even if the U.S. cut its toxic emissions to zero, China's emissions alone will overtake the world. Trump took the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Accords, which told governments to mandate tax incentives to unpredictable solar and wind companies, but ignore nuclear. Trump was against the Paris Accords, telling the U.S. how to do what we were already doing better than any other country. The Democrats, on the other hand, support the Green New Deal, which we've alluded to in the energy segment, against the fossil fuel, oil, coal, and gas, and nuclear. And of course, we know this eliminates auto, air, and ship travel. They want us to rejoin the Paris Climate Accords, which includes paying for other countries like India and China to meet their standards. 3-point wrap-up. We've concised this to 3 points to get your kids' little brain in gear here. The Republicans want low taxes. While the Democrats want high taxes. Republicans want freedom for all. They want a choice in education. They want a choice in health care. Democrats want control for all. They want one education program, public school, and they want one choice in health care, the government's. The Republicans want to protect and keep safe our speech, our religion, life, and property of citizens. How are we going to do that? Through the police, through the military, through ICE. On the other hand, the Democrats want to protect and exploit illegal aliens and felons, Antifa and Black Lives Matter, looters and rioters, through defunding the police, through defunding the military, and through eliminating ICE. We've given you the issues. We've given you the different perspectives. Now it's up to you.